Hey guys, before we start this episode, I wanted to talk to you about Type 1 lifting. So, Type 1 lifting is a clothing line that proceeds of the shirts and tanks and everything else goes to the Children's Diabetes Foundation. So, this all came about with me and seeing a 5-year-old girl in the emergency department that had new onset of diabetes. So, just take a look at the website. It's www.type1lifting.com. So just check it out. If you don't buy anything, that's perfectly fine. I would just like for you just to take a look and just see what we have. So, like I said before, www.type1lifting.com. And guys, I hope you enjoy the show. Hey guys, we have a new sponsor for the Type 1 Lifting podcast. The company's called Liberté Lifestyle. So Liberté is a French word meaning freedom, and the company was founded on the desire to have freedom to choose what we want to do with our lives. I actually had the owner, Nicole, on my podcast on episode 28, so if you want to go back and listen to her, she talks about how she started the company and what she wants to do in the future with the company, which is pretty cool. So they actually have knee sleeves, wrist wraps, shirts, shorts. Love the knee sleeves. I have the ice cream knee sleeves, and I love them so much. The neoprene's still good. The seams haven't split compared to other knee sleeves that I've had in the past, and I'm planning to keep these for a very, very long time. So Nicole actually gave me a promo code for you guys too. So it's all capital letters, TYPE, and the number 1. So it's Type 1. So go to libertelifestyle.com, check out what they have in the store, use the promo code Type 1, and save some coin. Now let's go to the episode. Guys, welcome to another episode of the Type 1 Lifting Podcast. I have the creator of the T1d Takedown and also fellow diabetic, Joel Godett. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, so I actually found you on Instagram, which was so cool because I saw this like T1d Takedown and I'm like, oh wait, what is this? And so I finally realized like, oh, this is like a charity thing for this Will's Way, for like a diabetic charity. So, but before we get that, I just found out you're a Type 1 diabetic too. So I kind of want to talk about that story a little bit before we start anything else.
Yeah. So similar to you, Thomas, I was diagnosed at not at 34, but at 32.
Okay.
And it wasn't out of the blue, but it wasn't. Nobody's expecting it. I'd gotten blood work done. Like, I'm just like a health conscious person for a couple of years. So like, this is going back probably to when I was like 29, 30 years old. I had gotten like routine blood work done, and the doctors were like, hey, your A1C is a little elevated. You should just watch that. Try to watch what type of food you're eating, because I used to eat bowls of cereal.
Yep.
And when I mean like bowls, not like cereal bowls, like mixing bowls of cereal for breakfast and dessert. And then I would have lots of white pasta. So I'm like, all right, like I can change my diet. So I changed my diet, and my A1C went from like 5.7 to like 5.4. And I'm like, all right, normal, very normal. I got this thing under control. And as time went by, like I got more blood work done, and it was like 6.1. I'm like, okay, I gotta hone in again. Like, gotta get myself under control. And then I went and got another set of blood work done. So like, this is over the span, like this is every 3 months. I got another set of blood work done. My A1C was like 8. And I'm like, and my doctor looks at me and is like, man, you really need to, like, we need to look at this. Probably need to put you on some medication. We think you're a type 2 diabetic. We got to get your blood sugar under control. And I was like, vehemently, I'm not going on medication. I'm going to figure this out on my own. Like, I'm gonna lock in on what I'm eating. I'm getting my A1C down. So I go back another 3 months later, and my blood sugar is like almost 400, which is exceedingly high in the world of like type 1 diabetics. Not that high. Like, there's many type 1 diabetics who'd be like, yeah, I was diagnosed at 1500.
Yeah.
So in the scheme, I was lucky that way. But my A1C was like 10. And at that point, my doctor looked at me and he's like, all right, something's not right here. We need to get you to an endocrinologist. And within like 30 seconds, an endocrinologist goes, yeah, you're a type 1 diabetic. So, and there were some other things that were mixed in there. Like once my numbers went like off the charts, I kind of started having some side effects that you might expect as a type 1 diabetic. Like my eyes felt like they were in vices all the time. Like I had such retinal strain, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And then like embarrassingly as a 32-year-old, but like part of the story, so whatever, I started waking up in the middle of the night and I was like, I am sweating an awful lot. I was not sweating. I'll let you guys connect the dots there. But what happens when you have a lot of things your body needs to get rid of, it does what it needs to do to get rid of toxins. So I'm like, at that point, I'm 32 years old and like I'm wetting the bed in the middle of the night and this is not normal. And what's magical is when I started taking insulin and got my blood sugar under control, all of that went away.
Yep.
So yeah, now, I'm about a year and a half into this journey and feeling relatively normal as you can be. Side effects are gone and rocking and rolling.
Yeah. So was 10 the highest your A1C was?
As far as I know.
Okay. Yeah, mine was 11.5 when I got diagnosed. So, and like it was completely out of nowhere from my pre-employment screening to the hospital I told you about. So,
Yeah.
Did you lose any weight or like what were the other symptoms that you had other than like massive wetting?
Yeah, no, I mean, like, lucky is a weird thing to say in terms of that, but like that was it for me. Like, I didn't lose a ton of weight. I had a lot of fatigue sometimes, and I didn't know what that was. I'm assuming it's probably connected now. But outside of those two things, no, not really. It was that and like the pure numerical indicator were the biggest things for me.
Okay. Now, were you doing CrossFit like way before your diabetes? And how did you start doing CrossFit?
I got into CrossFit in 2016. I don't have I've got a jacked up back. I've got like horrible winged scapulas, and it's great. So I started going to see a chiropractor, and this particular chiropractor had like monthly wellness sessions. So it'd be like, on this Tuesday, we'll talk about nutrition. And on next Tuesday, we'll talk about whatever. And one of those wellness sessions happened to be diet and exercise. And to talk about exercise, he brought in a coach from across down the street. And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. I can do this. Let me give this a shot.
Yeah.
So I walked in and I'm terrible. Like I know how like every diabetic can tell you the date they were diagnosed. I don't know. I can give you like a month. I was diagnosed somewhere around January, February 2020. Every CrossFitter can tell you their first workout. I cannot. All I can tell you is that I did it and I was hooked. I wish I remembered what the first workout was, but no, I was locked in. So it was a chance meeting. I was at the right wellness seminar, and 5 years later, goodness, haven't looked back.
Yeah. How's your back, by the way?
That's great.
Yeah.
Still go to the chiropractor.
Okay.
But yeah, no, we're good.
Yeah, I've never been to a chiropractor. Like I've always wanted to go. I just never had the chance to do it. And I've heard some like horror stories of like people getting x-rays and like, oh, they have to pay $600 now because they didn't tell them like what they're getting done. And I'm like, yeah, I really don't want that to happen to me.
That has happened. I did have x-rays done at one chiropractor. I went for my free consultation and wound up having to pay a lot of money. And they're like, well, the first part was free. I'm like, you didn't tell me when the first part was over.
Yeah.
Not my current chiropractor. Clearly did not wind up going to that guy.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So with CrossFit and all, like, have you seen like a large improvement of like, your fitness level, endurance, and like, what are you trying to do like this year? Like, and how did you do during the Open?
I have to learn the number. I think I'm the 425th fittest scaled man on earth.
Nice.
Scaling is okay. I'm a proud proponent of scaling CrossFit. I'm not a big, like, I'm never going to throw around big weights. So like, I'm not going to move, and I'd have to think about like what the weights were this year. They weren't huge, but like, I'm not going to move 135 pounds for reps efficiently. It's just not. So like, I'll scale workouts. It's fine. It's great. I get a good stimulus. So like, that's my level of fitness. Like I compete in our classes every day. And, you know, I feel like if I scale things appropriately and I'm finishing when the really good people are finishing within give or take a couple of minutes, I've done a good job and got my sweat in, and yeah, we're good.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of scaling if you need to. I mean, even I do it once in a while if I need to, but it's like, it's for me personally, it's hard to see people trying to do the RX weight and like just the form's awful and like they can't catch the clean and it's just like stop.
You're gonna get me like this. You're gonna get me into like pet peeve of mine, and so like I'm an L1 too, and like in the L1 seminar they preach like scaling is okay, like you scale to your level. CrossFit is infinitely scalable, but then we get to the open, and like this is just my pet peeve. Everybody's like, oh, I got my first ring muscle up in the open. I'm like, but what did it look like? I'm like, it's like. Your first ring muscle up, and this is just my opinion, your first ring muscle up shouldn't be in the open. Like you shouldn't be doing that in competition. Your first ring muscle up should be in like a training session. Like I'm all about, like, if you're in the open, like I want to, like, it irks me to no end that if you go on the CrossFit leaderboard, like there are pages of people that are ranked above me who did 1 rep on 21.1.
Yep.
And I'm like, that doesn't jive at all with the methodology. Like, if you did 1 rep of an RX workout, like literally by the formula of CrossFit's methodology, you're not fitter than somebody who did 9.5 minutes of all of the reps. Mm-hmm. But by the leaderboard, you are. So like that's always irked me. It's like, it's okay to scale something to get a great workout as opposed to like challenging yourself unnecessarily in the open. Like challenger, like I think, and maybe I might be putting words in his mouth, but like Ben Bergeron will talk about like, the time to get double unders is not in the workout.
Yeah.
Like time to get double unders is when you're training double unders and then you put them into practice when you can do them. Mm-hmm. So like that's always been my thought too, is like the time to get double unders is not in the open. You know, if you don't have double unders, do singles and crush them. And then when you get doubles, do them in the open. So yeah, scale away, be a scaled athlete.
Yeah, no problem with that. Yeah, because I was a personal trainer like a while back, and like I used to see people use like awful form, and it's just like, just stop, like lower the weight, and like first of all, you're wearing these like Adidas like foam like shoes, and it's just like, listen, you're squatting on pincushion, like you're squatting on a pillow, like stop, just go barefoot, just and go super light to work on form, and it's. There's like one guy in my gym. I go to a global gym and do all my CrossFit workouts there. But and so one guy, it's like it looks like he's like a scared cat every time he deadlifts. And his vertebrae looks like a scared cat because it's just like there's like a little bulge in the top, and I'm like, oh, like I can't imagine like how long he's been doing that form and gotten to his back to look like that.
I'm just picturing that in my mind. Yeah, no, not good.
Yeah, just think of a scared cat, and that's his back when he's deadlifting. It's like, oh boy. But yeah, so you started the T1d Takedown. So how did that come about?
Yeah, so there's a couple of angles to attack that. I think like from a philanthropic standpoint, I've always wanted to do something. Never knew what it was, never knew what it was going to be for. Never had a cause, never had a purpose. I just didn't like, there was no direction there for me. So there was always that nugget in the back of my mind. And if that was like running your own event, like that's kind of on the extreme end. But it could have been like giving to something. But it's like, I didn't have anything that spoke to me. Mm-hmm. Clearly I now do. So selfishly, I now do. And I was literally like, we're in the middle of a pandemic last year. I'm working from home. I'm not going to the gym because it was closed. So like I'm working out in the parking lot of my apartment complex. Like I'm not seeing any other people. I have a lot of time on my hands. And I'm sitting in bed one night, no joke. Like I'm just lying there. And I was like, insulin's really expensive. Glucose monitors are really expensive. And like, I'm fortunate enough that it doesn't affect me. like I can afford it, and that's not like a weird pat on my back. It's just like my television is 12 years old. I just like I don't spend money.
Yeah.
So like I make that work really fine. But I'm like laying there and I'm like, I know there are people that struggle to make those ends meet. Because you see it on the news all the time. And then like once you're afflicted with type 1, you all of a sudden start to realize really how expensive that stuff can be. So like I roll over, it's like 2 a.m, and I grab my phone and I Google charities that, I don't even remember exactly what I typed in, but it was like charities that give direct support to people with type 1 diabetes, which of course anybody who knows how to use Boolean search terms will tell you that's not how you do it. Mm-hmm. But like I just start scrolling through, and there's like JDR and like all your usual suspects, and there's nothing wrong with them, popped up. But I was like, no, there's lots of money in research. Like everything goes to research. Research is great. I hope they find a cure. But I was like, I want to find direct support. And at the bottom of the very first page of search results was a news story, I think from WTHR, which is one of the television affiliates in Indianapolis. And I was like, what are the odds that I would type in charity that helps people with diabetes costs, and there would be a news story in my city that would pop up? Like, what are the odds? So I clicked it. And I'm reading, and it talks about Diabetes Will's Way, which is this 501c3 that was established in the town next to mine, Carmel, Indiana.
Okay, cool.
And it issues grants for people, 2 types of grants: emergency medical grants or emergency cash grants for people that get admitted to the hospital because they have type 1 diabetes and they can't afford the costs. That's one. And then 2 is durable medical equipment grants. So people that need a glucose monitor, people that need an insulin pump, people that need insulin, issues grants for that. And I was like, okay. Pretty randomly awesome.
Yeah.
The next morning, I don't even know if it might have been like 2 a.m. I might have emailed the woman that moment. Lisa Oberndorfer is the head of that foundation, which I'm now on the board of. And I was like, hey, like Lisa, my name is Joel Godett. I have type 1. I do CrossFit. I've got this idea of like, I don't even know if CrossFit was a thing at that point. I don't even know if that had entered the equation. I was just like, hey, I want to get involved. I want more information. I want to know how you run events, like just feeling out process. We had a phone call. She was all excited about it. So the next thing I did was email our gym owner. And I was like, hey, Bryn, I've got this idea. Do you think we could do like barbells for boobs, AMRAPs for autism? We did another one in our gym called wall balls for Nepal, which raised money for a local church that was going on a mission trip to Nepal. I'm like, do you think we can do something in our gym to raise some money for this organization next town over to help people with their diabetes medical costs? And he was like, yeah, man, that's great. Let's do it. So I had a meeting with him and we talked about it. And we ended the meeting. I go, Bryn, how many gyms do you think I could get to do this with us? And he looks at me, he's like, man, I don't know. He's like, it's hard. You know, we're in the middle of a pandemic. Times are tough. There's a lot of these things out there. Like gyms are getting hit with this stuff all the time. Like you can try and see what happens. So at that moment, I'm like, all right, maybe I'll get like, my goal is 3 gyms. Let me get 3 gyms involved. We'll raise like $400. It'll be great. I start reaching out to all of the gyms in Indianapolis. And at that point, my coach, whose name is Matt Rattay, in the lifting world, he's awesome and really loud. So you've probably seen him on Instagram. Yep. But Matt and I sat down. He's like, here's what you're going to do. And he draws a map on a whiteboard of Indianapolis. And he puts X's where all the gyms are. And he goes, Saturday morning, he's like, let's look at class times. He goes, all right, this gym opens at 7. They've got a 7 a.m. This gym's got an 8 a.m. This gym's got an 8:15 a.m. So on one Saturday, I took that map and I drove around to every gym in Indianapolis.
Wow.
And I walked in the door of each gym and I said, hey, my name's Joel. I've got diabetes. I work out at 3 Kings Athletics. We're doing this event. I didn't know what it was called yet at that point. I think it was at that point called the T1d Takedown Type 1, which is not a great name. And I was like, would you do this with us? And like very quickly, it got to like 5 gyms, 8 gyms, 12 gyms, 22 gyms. And I was like, holy smokes. So we wound up in 22 gyms. and raised almost $10,000 last year with what became the Type 1 Takedown in Indianapolis. So
cool.
that is the long story of how it all came to be.
Yeah. So you have an Instagram page, the T1d Takedown, and obviously that's how I found out about you. So I constantly see posts of you getting other gyms in other locations, which is like super cool because I remember one of the posts I saw like the United States except for like Hawaii and like Alaska, and like literally you have like dots all over, obviously Indiana where you live, and like California and like a whole bunch of other places. So what are you trying to do this year to like get more? Because I literally like every day I see a new post of like a new gym like joining up. So how are you doing that? And like what's the goal for this year?
Dumb luck is how I'm doing it. There's one gym in Colorado. That's the furthest west we are right now. Telluride CrossFit in Telluride, Colorado. That was luck. I mean, like, so I got lucky last year. Morning Chalk Up did a write-up on what we put together last year. So it got a little bit of headlines and some press that way. And one of the coaches actually at Telluride CrossFit emailed me and was like, hey, if you do this again next year, like, let me know. I want to help out. I want to be involved. So them reaching out, that got that gym on the map. A couple other gyms. I mean, like, Chase Ingram is a guy that I've become friends with through broadcasting in CrossFit. So I shot Chase a text. I was like, hey man, you want to do this down at CrossFit Big D, his gym in Dallas. So Big D is in. I last year was the floor MC at the Elite Teen Throwdown at the Pitt Fitness Ranch in Michigan. So I reached out to Brock up there. I was like, hey Brock, I'm doing this again. This is the deal. Would you guys have any interest in joining up with it? So we've got it at the Pitt Fitness Ranch in Three Rivers, Michigan. So that was that. And then like a lot of it has literally, I have sent an inordinate amount of emails just to gym owners. And I've spent an unhealthy amount of time going to I've mapped out the CrossFit affiliate map. And I looked at like, all right, what's near me? St. Louis, Cincinnati, Dayton, Toledo, Chicago, find the big metro areas. And then I just Googled every gym, looked up who the owner was, found an email, sent an email and said, hey, I'm Joel. This is who I am. This is what I'm doing. This is what we did last year. Would you like to be a part of it? And like the return rate is not always great because you're just cold calling people.
Yeah.
But if I get one for every 10 to 15 emails that I send, that's one more gym. And one more gym is maybe 20 or 25 more people that sign up to do this, which is, however many other CGMs it is next year. So like, for me, it's just like, I'm just going to keep banging on doors. And if people answer them, great. That's awesome. If they don't answer them, great. Like I understand, like I'm asking, it doesn't cost anything for a gym to do it. There's no financial investment on their end. It's free for them. But like, I understand why a gym, like there's a lot of these things out there. And if they did every one that everybody asked, all you'd be doing is fundraising.
Yep. So
I understand why a gym would say no or not be interested. So it's like no hard feelings there. But from my standpoint, I'm just going to keep asking. Like there's nothing ventured, nothing gained. So like, I've just reached out to places and been like, hey, this is what I'm doing. Would you help me? Like, let's help grow it. And I was in 22 gyms last year. I told myself at the beginning of the year, I wanted to double it. So like, if I can get into 44 gyms, we raised almost $10,000. If I can raise almost $20,000, that's kind of my goal. If I don't hit it, I don't hit it. Reach for the stars. And what's the old adage, like reach for the stars, and if you miss, you catch the sun, or like reach for the sun, if you miss, you catch the stars.
Like that,
yeah. Like, aim big, and see what you come up with. And that's my goal for this year.
Very cool. So what's the whole process like? Do you have is it like a certain day that all the gyms do it? And like, do you make the workouts, or like, what the details of that?
Yeah. So it's the first Saturday in November. November's Diabetes Awareness Month.
Yep.
The first Saturday is happenstance. The way we landed on that is last year, it was a day that I knew that I was free. because I'm a broadcaster.
Yeah.
So I knew that I didn't have a football game that day, and I knew that basketball season wasn't starting yet. So I was available. And then looking at this year, it just so happened again that the first Saturday in November, currently I'm available. So it made it a little bit easier for my schedule. But I guess if you do it twice in a row, we can make it the first Saturday in November going forward. Yeah. It's got a good slot to it. But yeah, so the first Saturday in November, it's November 6th. Every gym that participates, they just do the same WOD. And that's the ask, is that in your gym, you do the workout for the type 1. That's the bare minimum. And then where we make our money is that basically your members sign up to participate. And I say sign up there, folks. Because if you don't sign up, like, you're still a member of your gym. So you're going to show up on Saturday and you're going to do the WOD and you're going to go home and it's going to be a normal Saturday. Nothing venture, nothing gained. Like, maybe you've learned a little bit about type 1 diabetes, awareness, etc. But if you do sign up, what that gets you, at least last year, is it got you a t-shirt for the event and then a whole bunch of what we deemed are like our sponsor rewards or sponsor benefits. So for $25 last year, you got a t-shirt, you got a $20 gift card to Born Primitive, you got a free cryotherapy session at our like a local cryotherapy place in Indy called the Recovery Room. You got a handful of discount codes for a bunch of like online businesses. Mush Overnight Oatmeal was a partner. Kay's Naturals Snacks was a partner. Revol Snacks was one of our first partners. So we tried to make it worth the while for people to say, like, hey, if you give us $25 to help our cause, here's what you're going to get back for it. And that's how it functioned last year. And it seemed like a really good method. It's simple. It's easy. If you're a gym, all you've got to do is run the workout. If you're a member and you want to participate, all you got to do is sign up. And then, that's how we did it at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's really cool. You have like all these other companies helping you out with the whole T1d Takedown.
Yeah, and that made it like that made it like yes and no. Like, my gym owner told me at the end of the day, he's like, ultimately what it's about is people are giving to a cause. The other stuff is extra, but like in my eyes, the other stuff is what makes it. Because I want to make it a good experience for everybody that signs up. Like, I want them to associate, hey, I gave $25 to the Type 1 Takedown, but I got for my money. Like, I feel like I was taken care of, and I got these deals from other sponsors, etc. Bear Complex was another big one. So the other thing we did is we made it an informal competition. You could go on our website, type 1 takedown, type number 1 takedown.com, and you could submit your time for the WOD. And then we gave away $50 Bear Complex gift cards to the top RX and scaled scores. So like, we added another layer to it. So again, like the sponsors made it, in my eyes, because it made it a more fun event outside of just showing up and working out like a normal Saturday.
Yeah, very cool. So you said you're in broadcasting. So like, how did you get involved in that? And has broadcasting helped you get more, gyms or people to get into the T1d Takedown?
Not yet. We'll see. It's weird because like I'm broadcasting the West Coast Classic next week. So like, I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of people involved in CrossFit over the last couple of days, but like, I don't want to mix those two things in some regard because, like, I'm talking to somebody for a professional reason, not for a personal reason.
Yeah. You don't want to be too salesy.
Right. It's like, I don't want to be like, hey, so while you're telling me about, each of your team members, let me tell you about this thing that you can do at your gym. Like, it's very used car salesman-y. So like, I don't know, maybe at some point, I'll have a platform down the road where people will know who I am, and associate the two things. Maybe that's grandeur in the future. But no, not for now. They haven't necessarily mixed yet. I mean, I do introduce myself when I reach out to people as like, hey, I'm Joel Godett. I broadcast CrossFit, just because I feel like it gives me a sense of legitimacy.
Yeah.
So that's where that comes in. What was the second part of the question?
So you're good. I should have started off with that in the beginning.
No, you're good.
How did you get into broadcasting?
Oh, that's a good story. That's a great nerd story. I went to sports broadcasting camp. Yeah, that's a thing.
I know. I hear it on the radio all the time.
Well, there's a lot of very popular people there. I shouldn't make fun because I was there, and there's a lot of really cool people there. When I was in high school, my dad saw an ad in the newspaper for the Bruce Beck and Iron Eagle sports broadcasting camp. I grew up in New Jersey. Bruce Beck is the NBC4 New York local sports anchor, and Iron Eagle is the voice of the Brooklyn Nets, voice of the NCAA tournament on CBS, NFL, TNT basketball. He's doing the playoffs right now. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to go to this. This is great. And I spent a week learning how to be a sportscaster from all these like famous talking heads in and around New York City. And I was enthralled with it and infatuated by it. So I went to college for it and threw myself at it in college and did everything that I could do, every extracurricular. I spent my Saturday mornings in college as the producer of a golf talk show at the local sports station in Syracuse, because I just wanted to do more. I wanted to get involved. And then, from there, got a job at the Buffalo Bison's baseball team, AAA baseball team right out of college. And then my boss there knew a guy at the University of South Florida, so I got a job there. And then I got a job in Bradenton, Florida, working in minor league baseball just south of there. My GM there is now one of my really good friends. His brother was the associate athletic director at Ball State University, which like 4 or 5 years later, I wound up working there. So like at that point, it was just this weaving road of good fortune and hard work that paid off to get me to the point now where I'm, a Division I football and basketball broadcaster and a network television broadcaster with CBS Sports Network and Big Ten Network, and a CrossFit Games broadcaster. When we were talking beforehand, literally, like talk about strokes of luck. Like I emailed like contact@crossfit.com or whatever like the generic email address was, and I said, "Hi, I'm Joel Godett. I'm a broadcaster. I do CrossFit. You need anybody to broadcast CrossFit?" And Sean Woodland emailed me like 2 weeks later. Yeah. And I was in Rio de Janeiro doing the regionals. So yeah, it's wild.
What was it like getting the phone call from Sean?
I was like, I forget what happened. Like, I forget. I think it was one shot. Like, I literally think it was a one-shot deal. Where he called me and was like, "Hey, this is Sean Woodland. Would you like to go to Rio de Janeiro?" Like, I don't think it was like a, "Hey, we got your email. Let's keep in touch." And then like later the Rio thing happened. Like, I think the first contact was sending me to Rio de Janeiro. So like, that's cool. Very few times in my life have I gotten an email from someone that says, "Hi, would you like to go to a foreign country for free? Yeah. And we'll pay you." So yeah, like it was wild. That whole experience was wild because if you remember, that was the regional where they had the truck strike in Brazil.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask that. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, talk about your first CrossFit competition experience. Yeah, it was nuts. Like that. Yeah, it was nuts. It was awesome.
Now I heard, I don't know if this is true or not. Did like affiliate members like literally get the weights out of the truck, put it in their cars, and drive it in?
Yeah. Yes, that and they just collected stuff from gyms. Like the boxes had like gym logos on them. Like the rig had like brand names on them, or like gym names on them. The dumbbells were like, it was like 7 different sets of dumbbells, because it was just wherever they could get stuff from. It was wild. And I remember they got lucky because the worm skins, I don't know how, the worm skins got through. The worm filling did not. So like they had like sandbags in the worm.
Oh my God.
But before they figured that out, like I remember looking at like Dave Castro and Chuck Carswell in a back hallway, like with a demo team trying to figure out if you could do worm stuff with barbells. Like it was crazy trying to see like how they were going to put that thing together.
That's insane. And I remember they only brought one person from
Yes.
South America to the CrossFit Games, and you said
Yep.
you said you saw Dave Castro. So what is he like? Obviously, probably that's not the best example of knowing who Dave Castro is, like behind the scenes. But
It was
like,
very high stress at Dave Castro that day.
yeah, but like, so like, what is he like behind the scenes? Because everyone sees him as this like really like blank slate, and like he does laugh a little bit, but like what's his what is he like?
He's very normal. Like I didn't have a ton of interaction with him, but I could, like, he sat next to me for like a whole day, which, keeping in mind, like this was the first time I'd ever worked for CrossFit, and Dave Castro was sitting here, and I'm looking to my right, and I'm like talking to Chase Ingram, and turning my left and looking at Dave Castro, and I'm like, whatever you say, don't say something wrong, because like our Lord and Savior Dave Castro is sitting right here. I was like, I mean, it was like it was bizarre. Like I don't get, like, I've done this long enough from a broadcast standpoint. Like I don't get awestruck a ton, because like people are people, and like pro athletes, they're very cool because of what they do, but like they're just people, and I try to look at them as just people, because it makes it easier to have conversations with them as just people. But in that moment, you're like, oh my God, Dave Castro is sitting right there. And at one point I was like, should I ask him for a picture? I'm going to ask, no. Yeah. Dave, can we take a picture? So like, I at least got that. But yeah, like he was very normal and talked to me like I belonged there, which was cool. Like just the way he'd ask questions about what I was looking at and what I was seeing and what had just happened. It was like, oh yeah, like I'm supposed to be here. I'm the broadcaster. That's the question he would ask me normally. That was cool.
Yeah. So are you considered like a contract employee? Were you part of like the whole media crew over at CrossFit? Not just contract?
Yeah, just a contract employee.
Okay.
So I got hired out per event to do regionals and then to do the games that year.
Okay, very cool. So what was the process of like trying to learn all the names of everyone down there? Because it must have been like you're like literally have like Urban Dictionary.
Yeah, I still have these. I don't know why. I do them on OneNote now, but this is literally, I think I have the Latin ones somewhere, but this is every single person from the masters and the teens. I'm flipping note cards in front of Tom's face here.
It's like a ream of paper.
Yeah, I mean, it's like thicker than that. So like this is Stephanie Waugh. So like on here, it's got all of her stats. This top line is all of her finishes. Like I could keep a running tally of how she was doing in every event. It's got her picture just in case, her jersey number. And then the top is a previous experience. So it's like all the information about every other games or regionals or whatever competition she's ever been to. And then the bottom is like story information that I got from talking to her, from reading. And then the very bottom is just numbers about like the games. How many games has she been to? What's her best finish? How many event wins does she have? All that stuff. So every single person has one of these cards. So for the West Coast Classic, that's 60, that's 80 cards for next week as we record this. The Brazil CrossFit Championship is a little bit less this week because of the style in which we're going to broadcast it. But it's a lot.
Yeah, that's crazy. So how long does it take you to like is it like do you like set a time for like 2 weeks to like try to know this? Like I'm super curious about this.
You don't want to know. Yeah. So what's funny is for the West Coast Classic, I literally sat back and I was like, I want to talk to everybody. And at the time, that seemed like a great idea. So like when I did the games, like for all of these, I think I emailed everybody or I Facebook messaged everybody, but I had a correspondence with everyone. I didn't talk to anybody. For the West Coast Classic, I was like, I'm going to physically talk to every competitor. And that was a mistake. I got a ton of great information, and like I'm happy that I did it, because I think from a viewing experience, hopefully we're going to be able to tell some really good stories about all of the people involved. But that was, again, there's 80 teams, individuals combined. I've spoken to a person from a team, and then each of the individuals. I think probably 85 or 90% I've talked to. So if I haven't spoken to and you're competing, sorry. Hopefully I'll get to you when I get there. But it's just like, it's a lot of phone calls, and like I've literally filled 3 reams of notebooks of notes that I've written down on these phone calls, and then I have to go back and insert all of those written notes into my computer notes in a way that I can organize and use them on the air efficiently. I'm on the extreme end of preparation, like the unhealthy extreme end of preparation, but I never know what I'm going to use. And for me in a CrossFit competition, it's really good to know a lot about Danny Spiegel and Carrie Pierce and Bethany Shadburn and, John Colty and Alex Smith and Noah Olson, but they're all going to be in the last heat. And I've got to talk about people in the first 2 heats also. And there's only so many times I can ask Tommy to analyze this guy's deadlift form or break down the strategy of how would you break up these muscle ups. At some point that gets old to me. Maybe it doesn't as a viewer, but in my mind, that stuff gets old after a while. I would much rather tell you about Alyssa Zaccaro, who is trying to earn her first ticket to the games this year as a coach at CrossFit Mentality and a teacher in Northeast Ohio. Alyssa Zaccaro is someone who grew up with just her mom and her brother, didn't have a lot. There were times where they didn't have a place to live when she was a kid, would go buy shirts from the thrift store for $2 and then for another $1 embroider a Nike logo on them. Wow. So that she would look like she fit in school. Going to college was never in the cards, but she was an elite soccer player and had mentors in her life that got her a spot at Bowling Green State University to play soccer. She had never applied to the school. The coach called her and said, "You're coming, we'll take care of the rest." Goes to Bowling Green, is a captain, is a 4-time MVP of the team, gets her teaching degree, is now a teacher in Northeast Ohio so that she can be an influence that she did and did not have at times during her life. That to me is a much more interesting story if I can sprinkle it in appropriately than, hey, Tommy, let's break down round 3 of these ring muscle ups here. That stuff's important, but to me, like being able to drop in the flavor of who these competitors are and make you care about them, and then obviously utilize, the guy sitting next to me and their knowledge and their experience, and being able to weave that tapestry, I think gives you a much better viewing experience. So for me, it's a ton of prep and a ton of work, and a lot of conversations, but hopefully it pays off for you guys at home on the back end of it.
Yeah, I like that. That's awesome. And especially like hearing stories like that, like during the broadcast, and obviously it'll be like, it would get the, people watching more entertained and be like, whoa, okay, all right, I got to look this girl up. And so it's like, all right, go on Instagram, check this out, follow, for, just learning about her. I mean,
and like being honest too, like a lot of these people aren't names necessarily. And even the ones that are names aren't necessarily names. And like I said, John Colty earlier, like he's been to the games before. He was at the games in 2018. But how much does anybody know about John Colty?
Not many.
Like,
I mean,
right.
Not too many people know about the second place person either.
Right. Like that. And that's where, like, John and I had a great conversation. I'm excited to be able to tell parts of his story. But I also look at it from the standpoint of, like, I really enjoyed the time I spent on the phone with Bethany Shadburn. She has been in this game for a very long time. Fans of the sport know her very well. But my job is to tell them something they don't know. And I might succeed at that. I might not. But my whole goal is, what can I teach you about these people that you might not know, even at the highest levels? So hopefully we can get that done. Like, from not to get too nerdy on you, but like in my eyes, people always say, when people ask who's the best broadcaster, like who do you admire as a broadcaster? And I've got some guys, but Vince McMahon is one of the greatest play-by-play broadcasters of all time.
Yep.
He's the chairman of WWE, but before he was known as that, he was the play-by-play voice of pro wrestling. And the reason that he's so great at what he did is because he made you hate that guy and love that guy. No matter what happened, you felt something for everybody on your television screen. And that's the goal I hope to bring to the competitions, is that at the end of the day, you feel something, and you're not just pulling for people to win because you want to see them win, but you're pulling for them because you're attached to their story.
Yeah. So do you think CrossFit's going in the right direction with the new CEO?
Oh God, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm not a business owner, and I'm not in a position to he has forgotten more about everything than I will ever know. But like, yeah, I'm a huge fan of the direction that everything has gone in a lot of different ways.
Yeah. And do you think like the whole like sanctionals, the way it's going now, obviously like maybe next year there won't be online stuff, but do you think they'll be adding more sanctionals at all?
I don't know. Like, I can't give you an informed answer to that question. If I could do it,
your opinion, you know.
Yeah, I mean, if I could do it in my own, like, if you're like Joel, create a CrossFit Games season, it would look nothing like any of this. But I'm also a little insane that way. Like, I don't think the athletes should be doing the Open. That's my 2 cents on it. Like, I think CrossFit would be really cool in like a golf or tennis type environment where like you've got a pro circuit, mm-hmm. and like we the great unwashed do the Open, and like from the Open you can earn a tour card so that you can get yourself onto the pro circuit. But like, you know, like Matt Fraser doesn't have to necessarily be doing the Open. He's on the pro tour so that he can go to all these events. And like the CrossFit Games would be like the PGA Championship, and like Wadapalooza would be the Masters, et cetera, et cetera. But like, that's an entirely different model than what we're doing right now. So as far as the way things are set up right now, like, yeah, I think it works, and I think it's cool.
Very cool. So you said you've been to the games and done broadcasting for the CrossFit Games. So what has been the most like coolest thing that you've seen during your broadcasting time at the games?
I mean, I saw Haley Adams torch some people. I thought that was pretty cool. I think it's probably the most dominant thing I've ever seen happen in person. I'm really angry that she didn't win every event, because that would have been really cool to see. I'm glad that she had lost one before she lost the last one, because that would have been really depressing. She came in second on the swim and then second on the complex Fran that year. But other than that, like, she crushed people. It's statistically, it's the greatest, most dominant performance at the CrossFit Games of all time. Age group, man-woman team. So like, that was cool to witness kind of dominance that way. I mean, like, yeah, like I'd be silly if like seeing Matt for the first time in person, that's cool. Seeing Tia for the first time in person is cool. I think it would be hard to top the Pablo Chalfun qualification out of the Latin Regional in 2018. If you haven't seen it, try to go find it on YouTube. Pablo Chalfun was literally the last man in to the Latin American Regional in 2018. He was the final. I think he might have been a backfill. And he just kind of snuck his way up the leaderboard and got into the last event as a Brazilian in Brazil, and won. I think he won his heat in the last event and secured a spot to the CrossFit Games. And it was so loud in that arena. And he was doing the chest to bar pull-ups and then the thrusters in that workout to finish. And the entire gym was counting in Portuguese. Like, I don't speak Portuguese, but like 1, 2, 3 in unison. And I just remember, like, he walked up to the bar doing his thrusters and he finished, and I just said, drop the bar and go. And he ran and the place erupted. And I just said, Pablo Chalfun, see you in Wisconsin. And like threw my pen up in the air and sat back. And like Chase and I just sat there in silence for like 20 seconds while the place just roared.
That's awesome.
It was awesome.
Very cool. That's very cool. So we're getting close to the end, and so just a couple quick questions. So
Yeah.
what are your goals for the end of the year? Like, it could be personal, fitness wise, broadcasting, like pretty much anything.
Um, broad broadcasting. I'd love to get more network work. For me would be awesome. I want to continue to personally advance myself that way. Love to do a little more football on network television. That'd be awesome. Nobody really cares, but that's my own personal thing.
Hey, it's whatever you want it.
Yeah. Obviously the Type 1 Takedown is big on my mind. If there's two things I really care about right now, it's what I do professionally, and it's making that successful. It just so happens to be that's also at the end of the year. So, making that a success and making that a great experience for the people that do it. And for Diabetes Will's Way, hopefully raising enough money that we can make a real difference with them this year. So those are two things. From a fitness standpoint, I want to snatch more than 122.2. That'd be great, because I'm kind of stuck on that right now. We have kilo plates, yeah. So it's a weird PR. That would be awesome. I've broken I'm a small dude, so like I've broken 300 on a deadlift. That's good.
Nice.
I'd love to crack 200 on my clean. Those types of things. Just started walking on my hands last week, so maybe getting better at that. We'll see.
Very cool. Very cool. I used to do pretty good on like handstand walks, but like my left elbow, if I like put too much pressure on it or like slam it down on the ground, it just like locks up, and so I'm like, forget it. It's just like it's like super sharp pain, and so I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna not do this right now. So yeah, but if you want to work on your snatch, I would highly recommend doing snatch deadlifts, and then snatch balances.
Yeah.
Kind of do like holds, or do like snatch holds or whatever, like above the knee, below the knee, stuff like that. That's a huge help. So
hold the position, yeah.
And the weirdest thing is, I've heard this from Cal Dietz. He's like this like world-renowned like weightlifting coach. If you curl your big toe in, it fires your glutes and hamstrings up, so you can shoot up a lot quicker. So you could use that with deadlifting and back squatting too.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I like that.
I learned that on another podcast. I was just like, when I heard that, I was just like, oh, I'm definitely using this. And it's like amazing to see other people when I tell them to do it, like, hey, try this, and they're like, holy cow, like this is amazing. Like where did this come from?
That's awesome.
But definitely try that. So let's just say, you just got like, you don't have any more podcasting or I'm sorry, broadcasting or CrossFit. How do you want people to know you as?
You take those two things out, I got nothing left. It's like a bad dating app. It's like, so what do you do? It's like I broadcast and I CrossFit. That's all I got. All around good dude. But yeah, I was a big Boy Meets World fan growing up, and there was that episode where Corey Matthews runs for class president, and it was like, Corey Matthews, regular guy. That was the tagline. I just want to be a good regular guy. I don't know, someone that found a way to leave a mark somehow. And if that's through, I think ultimately, like my grand plan, I would love to broadcast at a level where I'm broadcasting at a cool level, because professionally I want that. But also where I can have a voice that matters in a way that it resonates loudly. Like Boog Shambi, who's the Chicago Cubs voice, ESPN baseball broadcaster, did a ton for ALS just this past week, and has a really big megaphone because of what he's been able to do professionally. Everyone knows who Boog Shambi is. And he was able to shout from the rooftops about what he was aiming to do because of the platform that he had. Jason Benetti, who's the voice of the White Sox and is a friend of mine, has done so much for cerebral palsy causes and awareness and education because of who he is as a person, but also the platform that he has. And I would love to be able to get to the point where I can have a large enough megaphone as a broadcaster where I can talk about type 1 diabetes and make an impact and be an influencer, to steal a bad term of 2021. That I think is the ultimate goal. Like if I can broadcast games, one day coach some CrossFit and influence people with type 1 diabetes, a good day.
Yeah, that's why I kind of started the podcast, because and my t-shirt company too, because I wanted to let people know, like, hey, we can still do amazing things even though we have this really shitty disease. So that's why I started all this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
and if you ever see me eating fruit snacks, it's not because I like Scooby-Doo as a 34-year-old. It's because it's quick sugar and they're $1 at the grocery store.
Oh, yeah, that's me with Sour Patch Kids. Like dollar boxes, I'm like, I am in. And you know what's weird? I've learned this from another diabetic that I have my podcast, like frosting.
Ooh. Like the only problem is if I have that around, I'll eat it generally.
Well, yeah,
that's the problem.
So typically what I do is I have like a tube of frosting in my car.
Ooh, interesting.
So just in case of God forbid something happens and I'm low, I can just smash that in and then just be on my way. So
I'm just I have to be careful with that, just because I bought a bag of chocolate chips once because I was like, if I'm low, this will be a good thing. But then I ate the bag of chocolate chips. So it's I know they say that insulin sometimes makes you gain weight. That I guess is true. But the other thing that's true is that I gain weight because I eat the things that I have around for when I'm low, when I'm not low.
Yeah.
So that's why when I did Carrie Pierce Power Abs, I didn't have the end results that I wanted to submit for a progress picture, because I like to eat chocolate chips, and I'm a type 1 diabetic, and they don't mix.
No, not at all. So what medication are you on?
I do 15 units of long-acting in the morning, Basaglar in the morning, and then I take Novolog quick-acting. I use pens. I'm not a pump guy throughout the day as I eat. So, yeah.
Very cool. Do you do long-lasting at nighttime too?
So, I do it once in the morning because that's when I can remember. My doctor had me at one point split it up into a morning dose and an evening dose, and then I kept forgetting to take the evening dose. So I wound up just going to I think they still want me to do it twice a day, but right now I do it just in the morning.
All right, very cool. So where can people reach out to you, be a part of T1d Takedown, or having questions with broadcasting? Where can they reach out to you?
Yeah. Find me on Instagram. I'm just Joel1 on Instagram. Type 1 Takedown is T1d Takedown. You can hit me at either one of those on Instagram. You can hit me on Twitter. I'm at Joel Godett, JoelGodett. You can get me that way too. Type1takedown.com. There's a contact me page on there that goes straight to my email. So you can email me that way. I check all those. If you are a CrossFitter and your gym wants to be involved, let me know. I would love to have you. If you're a CrossFitter and you don't have a gym and you just want to be involved, you can sign up and do that too. There was an at-home version last year, but if you've got a home gym, you can do it there too. So if you just want to sign up individually and be a part of it, that's out there as well.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for doing this. I really do appreciate, taking the time, and actually learning about you pretty much, because I had no idea you were a broadcaster in the beginning. So, but yeah, thank you so much for doing this.
No, Tom, it's my pleasure. This has been a lot of fun, and I'm glad you gave me the platform, and happy to sit down and talk anytime.
All right. Well, have a good one.
No, my pleasure.